Hello, everyone. This is going to be an update on the latest of the Sam Bankman-Fried FTX cryptocurrency legal process. I think most of you who have been watching my videos of late understand that I have nothing but contempt for the legal system at the state level, the Superior Court level. However, at the federal level, which we're talking about federal indictment charges against Caroline Ellison and Sam Bankman-Fried, my contempt would be, I don't know, an order of 10 times greater. I mean, corrupt is corrupt, so I have zero confidence in state superior courts. I have zero confidence of federal court, which affects everyone who's listening to this channel that thinks they live in the United States of America. I mean, this affects you, which means to say you live in a corrupt system of admiralty, maritime, martial law, and there is no law. I mean, I could teach at Columbia Law School. I could teach at Yale. I could teach at Stanford. I could teach at Hastings, University of California, Hastings Law School, where cackling cacophony of chaos, Kamala Harris allegedly graduated. I could teach law at all schools. Every elite school should pay me millions of dollars, and I can reduce it all down to 15 minutes. I could teach law class. I could teach a constitutional law class at any university in the United States in under 90 seconds. I can't do my own podcast in under 30 minutes, but I could teach at Stanford or at Yale, where Alan Dershowitz went, or Harvard Law School. I could go there and I could teach in under 90 seconds. There is no law, so there's nothing to talk about. Case closed, class dismissed. How long did that take? 15 seconds? All right, so today's update is the news from Friday that was not reported until today, Tuesday, which was concealed for 72 hours, was that the federal Southern District of New York, Ronnie Abrams, has recused herself from overseeing the trial or legal process of Sam Bankman-Fried because her husband works for a law firm that advised FTX back in 2021. Won't give you a date or the number of hours billed. Okay, I'm going to read you the article, but, trust me, there's implied linguistics throughout this media story, and it's actually 10,000 times worse than Ronnie Abrams would have you believe. So anyway, here's the news article that appeared. It's appeared in all of the standard journals. You can find it. Just Google Judge Ronnie Abrams recuses self from Sam Bankman-Fried case because husband firm advised FTX. That's the headline that I'm reading from. The federal judge slated to oversee FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried's case has recused herself because her husband's law firm advised the bankrupt cryptocurrency exchange. Next paragraph. Ronnie Abrams, a district judge for the Southern District of New York, said in a court order on Friday last, just before the Christmas Eve weekend, right, that the law firm of Davis, Polk, and Wardell Limited Liability Partnership, where her husband is a partner, advised FTX in 2021. No details. Next paragraph. The firm, meaning Davis, Polk, and Wardell, represented parties that may be adverse to FTX and Bankman-Fried in other proceedings or potential proceedings, Abrams wrote. It's Ronnie Abrams. Ronnie. Almost want to call her Ronnie Spector. Anyway, Ronnie, who's very young, by the way, she's 54 years old. I'm going to get back. Barack Obama appointed her as a federal judge in 2012 when she was 44 years old, which right there, I'm just letting you know, that should be a fire engine bell ringing. 44-year-old women and men do not have experience to be federal judges. They don't have experience to be state superior court judges either. They should go back and work in the district attorney's office or the attorney general's office. Or perhaps, my advice would be, why don't you go get a real job? You could be a massage therapist or run a lemonade stand with other children until you learn something about how the world works. But that's not what Ronnie Abrams did. Oh no, she's appointed to be a federal judge by Barack Obama in 2012 when she's only 44 years old. Okay, so anyway, it's 10 years later and she's 54 years old. It's 2022. My husband has no involvement in any of these representations, she wrote in her filing. These matters are confidential and their substance is unknown to the court. Why, am I supposed to believe you? Like your husband doesn't tell you secrets in bed? I don't know. I don't know what you people talk about. We're going to get into your husband in a second. But anyway, so she's saying that it's all secret and just to trust her. She's recusing herself that she perhaps has a conflict of interest because the man she's sleeping with is an employee, a partner of the law firm that advised Sam Bankman-Fried's cryptocurrency company, which again, no mention of the name Doug Leone. Doug Leone, who went to Cornell University and Columbia and MIT. No mention of his name in this story whatsoever. I wonder why not. Anyway, he's the one that founded FTX in the first place with Sequoia Capital. Let me continue. These matters are confidential and their substance is unknown to the court. That means her. She is the court. Nevertheless, to avoid the possible conflict or appearances of one, there's a major appearance of a conflict, Ronnie. The court hereby recuses itself from this action. Yeah, let's put another conflicted judge on the case, right? Ronnie Abrams' husband, Greg D. Andres, is a former Brooklyn federal prosecutor who later served as Deputy Assistant Attorney General in the Justice Department, reports the New York Times. You've heard of the New York Times, right? It's a very CIA-oriented newspaper. Anyway, Greg Andres was part of a special counsel of Robert S. Mueller's team that investigated the Russian interference in the 2016 election. You know, where Donald Trump won the election? Obviously, that had to be fixed, right? So, you know, good old husband Greg Andres was working with Robert Mueller to see if those pesky Russians that shot down Francis Gary Powers on May Day, 1960, if they rigged the election for Donald Trump, right? Right. Before Ronnie Abrams was appointed by President Barack Obama in 2012, she also worked at Davis, Polk, and Wardell, where she oversaw its pro bono program. Look, they don't have a pro bono program. Thanks a lot. That's a mendacity right there. I happen to know these big fancy firms do not have pro bono programs. What that means is they get an intern from Columbia University and they assign the no experienced intern to waste the time of people who cannot afford to pay $500,000 to represent themselves in court. Bankman-Fried, who's currently under house arrest, under, I guess, the University of Stanford's house, while out on a record-breaking $250 million bond, which probably cost $15 million premium, which I'm sure Doug Leone would have no problem coming up with out of petty cash. He's accused of illegally using investor money to buy real estate, fund his trading firm Alameda Research, and make political donations that led to FTX's sudden collapse last month. Last month was November 2022. Sam Bankman-Fried faces charges of wire fraud, securities fraud, conspiracy, money laundering, and campaign finance violations that could put him behind bars for 115 years. The Post, Judge Ronnie Abrams recuses self from the Sam Bankman-Fried case because husband's firm advised FTX, first appeared in the New York Post. Perhaps this morning, because it sure didn't appear on Friday when everybody was not paying attention, grabbing last-minute Christmas shopping. All right. Now, because I think a lot of you have confidence in my laser focus, I would call it the ability to see through walls X-ray vision, right? First of all, according to that article, the cause of the problem is Greg Andres, who's her husband. He's an American attorney who was most notably known for serving as assistant special counsel for the Russian interference in the Donald Trump 2016 victory of the U.S. election for president, working under Robert Mueller. I'm sure everyone has lots of confidence in Robert Mueller. He has rejoined the firm of Davis, Polk, and Wardell. In other words, he worked there, took a leave of absence to be a special counsel, to look into those pesky Russians. Then he returned back to Davis, Polk, and Wardell. What the article didn't tell you is Ronnie Abrams, she also used to work there, right? So, well, I guess they did mention that, right? She was in charge of the free service at Davis, Polk, and Wardell. So perhaps that's where Greg Andres met his future wife, Ronnie Abrams. What will I tell you about Ronnie Abrams in a second here? Anyway, so Greg Andres went to Notre Dame University, and then he got a law degree from University of Chicago Law School. All right. Now, University of Notre Dame is the school that the judge last week denied Scott Peterson his right to a retrial due to malfeasance of a juror in his conviction of murdering his 27-year-old wife, Lacey Peterson, who was pregnant at the time of her death. And this Notre Dame University alumnus denied that in the county of San Mateo. You know, where Doug Leone has an office in Sequoia Capital on 2800 Sand Hill Road. Sequoia Capital. You know who created FTX. Right. They've got a Notre Dame judge who just denied a trial for a man who discovered felony malfeasance of a juror who lied on her questionnaire. Anyway, no big deal, nothing to see here, right? Just keep moving. What's paradoxical and par for the course regarding Judge Greg Andres, well, he's a corporate lawyer for Davis, Polk, and Wardell, and he's married to a federal judge, Ronnie Abrams, is that he has no birth date. A man with no birth date. I mean, even Charlie Maddox Manson has a birth date. How come Greg Andres doesn't have a birth date? So that's kind of a red flag, right? That we've got a person in a news story regarding Ronnie Abrams who's recused herself. She's a 10-year federal judge appointed by Barack Obama, and her husband doesn't have a date of birth. Hey, Ronnie, do you know when his birthday is? Have you ever celebrated his birthday in the last 10 years? I'm just curious. Let us know what your husband's birth date is. We'd all like to know. So who the heck is Ronnie Abrams, right? Well, she went to Cornell University and got a Bachelor of Arts. Then she proceeded to Yale Law School where she got her JD, right? Right. And who is her daddy? You know, I'm always interested in sugar daddies and daddies because Camilla Harris, our vice president and cackling cacophony of chaos, she was a sugar baby to Willie Brown, who was her sugar daddy. Willie Brown was a state assemblyman of the state of California. Right. And Camilla Harris became the misguided district attorney of the county of San Francisco. That's pretty scary, right? And I don't know what's scarier, being vice president of the United States with Sleepy Joe Biden as your president, or, you know, committing a felony crime in the county of San Francisco and having her as your district attorney. Anyway, it turns out that Ronnie Abrams' father is named Floyd Abrams. He's a Jewish gentleman from New York City, right? He's born in New York City. He's 86 years old. He's alive. You can drop me a line, Floyd, if you like. Yeah, I'm just reading this right off of your bio, pal, so don't think I'm making anything up here. Anyway, so he was born to Jewish parents, which makes Ronnie Abrams Jewish too, right? He's the first cousin to Elliot Abrams. You may have heard of him. Elliot Abrams. His children are Dan Abrams. I'm sure you've heard of Dan Abrams from the O.J. Simpson trial, right? Dan Abrams is the brother to Ronnie. Ronnie Abrams' brother, who's 2 years older than her. He's 56 years old, right? He's the older brother. So Ronnie Abrams' older brother is Daniel Abrams, who went to Duke University and Columbia University Law School. And of course, he's a television presenter slash entrepreneur. He's also the CEO of Abrams Media, so he has his own media company, has 2 children, and his sister's a federal judge. I'm laughing because he came to prominence during the O.J. Simpson trial, which is enveloped in CIA operatives inside the courtroom, outside the courtroom. And Dan Abrams was apparently one of the CIA operatives who worked outside the courtroom. Because I didn't know he worked for the CIA, but I do now. He went to Columbia and he covered the O.J. Simpson trial, which featured William Colby's second youngest son, Carl Colby, who was a material witness in the murder case, the witness that didn't see anything, witness. And we had Cato Kalin, a CIA crisis actor. We know Cato Kalin works for CIA because he appeared along with raising money for the Tortoise Lady in the Anne Heche infamous fiery car crash that no one got harmed in, including the pet turtle. The pet turtle didn't get hurt. The pet turtle lady didn't get hurt. And she's living in a tear-down military army CIA barrack, 738 square foot. Most apartments in California are larger than the dump that this alleged felony arson happened in, which Anne Heche was not part of. Anyway, Dan Abrams played a huge role in the O.J. Simpson case, along with Alan Dershowitz, who also went to the Yale Law School to get his JD, just like Ronnie Abrams did. You should know that her father, Floyd, also received an undergraduate degree from Cornell and his law degree from Yale, just like his daughter. So in the case of his son, Dan didn't do the exact routine. He went to Duke. He didn't go to Cornell. He went to Duke. And then he went to Columbia University for his JD, whereas Ronnie went to Cornell and then to Yale, where Oliver Silverstein Stone went to school, where Dick Cheney went to school but didn't graduate, but then had a very illustrious career in government. Dick Cheney dropped out of Yale, had a little drinking problem, I heard through the grapevine. Anyway, I guess my problem here with the story is that this was the first round. This was round 1 of finding a compromised judge who's going to provide over a compromised trial. Because I guarantee you, Sam Bankman-Fried is never going to get a fair trial. He's never going to get a legitimate judge. So we see Ronnie Abrams is going to go bye-bye. I especially detest her cousin, Elliot Abrams. I have always detested Elliot Abrams. Always, for the record, I was a big fan of Ronald Reagan because he was a professional actor, and I think he knew he was faking it, right? I knew he was faking it, and I think Ronald Reagan knew he was faking it. Elliot Abrams, again, comes from the same Jewish family that Ronnie Abrams came from, and again from New York City. His father was an immigration lawyer before he became a lawyer. Elliot Abrams, just so you know, attended, he's 74 years old. He attended Harvard University and then London School of Economics. He does have a law degree from Harvard University. He has a Bachelor of Arts and law school from Harvard, and then he has an master's degree, MBA, from London School of Economics. So he's a very well-educated clandestine soldier because, Harvard is CIA, the School of London Economics is British intelligence, and that pretty much sums up whether you should trust Elliot Abrams. I would never trust him. And I guess I wouldn't trust his cousin, Ronnie Abrams, either. And I now no longer trust Dan Abrams. He had the best sales sophistry look. But Ronnie is only 54 years old. She's been a federal judge for 10 years. She's completely out of her element, and she's remote controlled, and she's not in charge of her courtroom. And by the way, no federal judge is in charge of his courtroom. And if you don't believe me, Judge Older, who was a flying tiger and shot down the 3rd most amount of Japanese pilots before Pearl Harbor, he wasn't in charge of his courtroom either because the CIA was in charge of Judge Older. And whoever is in charge of the Sam Bankman-Fried case, fried, like French fried, they're going to be controlled by CIA. And I'm here to tell you that I don't think that Sam Bankman-Fried is going to leave the Stanford University campus alive, perhaps in a body bag. All right, I just wanted to update you of that, is that for all my dear friends that I greatly enjoy your company, who do still cling on to the concept that we have a criminal justice system or a civil justice system, and that we have the law of the land and common law and contract law. You know, look, I love you people, you're great, but you're completely delusional. You know, put the vodka bottle down, stop smoking your marijuana, and wake up to the reality is you're under maritime law. That means no due process, no law of the land, no United States Constitution, no Bill of Rights, no due process, and no, you cannot represent yourself in court. Hey, I would know. I fired my lawyer in open court, which is the only place you can fire them, because they won't let you in the room if you tell them that in advance. You have to surprise them. You know from our friends at the clandestine services, it's a surprise sneak attack, right? That's how you bamboozle people. Once you cross through the gate in a courtroom, you're in maritime law. That's what a gate is. It's a interlocking oceanic device. That's how you bring the ocean into the land, through a canal system of gates. You know that? That's called the bar, right? The top of the rail is called the bar. And when you see, you're not an officer of court status when you're a defendant in a trial. You don't have officer of the court status. So they insist that you have a lawyer who has officer of the court status, meaning maritime law approval, like Ron DeSantis does. He's a graduate of the Judge Advocate School in the United States Navy. That means he's an expert in admiralty law. That's military law. So I don't think Ron DeSantis knows anything about common law. I don't think he knows anything about the law of the land. I don't think he knows anything about contracts. I mean, look at all the contracts today. They're microscopic. You need a magnifying glass to read them. So none of these contracts with these big corporations, in my opinion, they're all illegal, unethical contracts. Because if you drop your contract in invisible ink and people can't read it, that's an illegal contract according to my understanding of common law and statute of limitations fraud. Statutes of fraud. Statutes of fraud. We have such a thing as statutes of fraud in the United States. It goes with common law. It goes with contract law. If your contract violates the statute of fraud, you have an invalid contract. And every Verizon contract, every mobile phone contract, every Netflix contract has pages of really tiny letters that you cannot read. Those are, in my opinion, unlawful contracts. I don't know, and I sincerely doubt that Ronnie Abrams would know that. I mean, she's just a federal judge. If you want financial advice and you want legal advice, the last people I would go to is someone that graduated from Yale University or Harvard Law or Stanford Law. They know nothing about common law. They're all indoctrinated into maritime law. All right, that's my talk. I am not expecting Sam Bankman-Fried to go to trial. I see now that it'll be delayed because we have to go look for another federal judge in the Southern District of New York who can look over the Sam Bankman-Fried, Caroline Ellison case, which is a complete hornet's nest because they've never mentioned Sequoia Capital, who should be indicted as a co-conspirator. And they also have not mentioned Jim Cramer, who should be indicted as a co-conspirator for pimping this fraud out on CNBC. They haven't done a forensic accounting. Caroline Ellison is attributed to have said that she made millions of dollars of loans to officers of FTX. That makes no sense at all. That means that somebody, Doug Leone maybe, somebody gave Caroline Ellison some money who then lent it to officers of FTX. So how does that accounting work? I thought FTX was the crypto fraud. But if Caroline Ellison in a software company had money that she's transferring to officers, you'd have to include her in this case too, right? And I can assure you there's no judge that went to Yale or Harvard or Stanford or Hastings that has the foggiest idea of how to do basic mathematics. They're completely inept and out of their element when it comes to arithmetic and finance and financial accounting and forensic accounting. They have no idea at all. That's why I've never, ever, ever agreed with the appointment of judges. They are not qualified to rule on subjects they know nothing about. But that's our system. It's political. And the judge doesn't really need to know anything because they go to a meeting where someone taps them on the shoulder and tells them what to do. If you don't believe me, study the O.J. Simpson trial. See how Judge Ito made his rulings. Go check out who handled the McMartin School molestation trial. That was Sidney Weissman, a Jewish man from Los Angeles. And he bungled that case over a 7-year period and got himself a whole bunch of mistrials. No acquittals and no convictions, just mistrials. Then they immediately gave him, again, same age as Ronnie Abrams. He was only 42 years old when they gave him a highly complicated McMartin School case. Then he bungles that. Then he goes on to Rodney King beating, where he bungles that, gets 3 acquittals and a hung jury for the guy who actually did most of the beating of Rodney King, which is on videotape. So no convictions. Got a beat up man, almost died. Nobody held accountable. Then they immediately give him the Lyle and Eric Menendez murder of Jose Menendez, who's a lifetime CIA operative and a professional hit in Beverly Hills in Elton John's house, which was Michael Jackson's house before it was Elton John's house, and then became William Link's house, the producer of the biggest television success of a detective show, Columbo. He moves in to the murder scene after they clean it up. That sounds like a cult ritual, doesn't it? 722 North Elm Drive, Beverly Hills, 90210. I'm here to tell you that they had a Jewish judge preside over McMartin School case, Rodney King beating, Jose Menendez, got you 2 mistrials, 2 mistrials, and then 2 convictions. Second time around, they convicted the boys, who are totally innocent. So he got that wrong too. Congratulations, Cindy Weissman. You screwed up the Menendez case, you screwed up the Rodney King beating case, and you completely screwed up the McMartin molestation case. That's probably who, they're going to get someone like that. He's a state of California superior judge, so he's not federal. You've got to be appointed, like Barack Obama or Sleepy Joe Biden. I don't know if he knows what he's doing. But anyway, you've got to be plugged into the system to become a federal judge of the Southern District of New York. But whoever they find, whoever they dredge up from the World Trade Center, ruins, debris, will be compromised. I guarantee you. And the thing's not going to go to trial. It's going to be a plea agreement, or certain people, I won't mention their name, will die of COVID. And then, I guess you can't prosecute a dead man, so nothing to see here. Keep moving, people. We'll move on to the next crisis, There's always a Sharon Tate, Abigail Folger, or Lena LaBianca bayonet attack just around the next corner, right? Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.